I'm live. I'm live now. I am live now. I'm just waiting for my good friend John Little to tell me that you can see it. Then I'll start my introduction. So as soon as you guys see it. Oh, cool. I want to say hi to Lisa, and we got a couple gals from Germany, and Kelly. And if Lisa's here, that means Steven's here. So hi, Steven. Oh, hey, Renee. Hello. You made it back from work. Renee really had a scramble to get back here today. Hey, Victoria. Lovely to see everybody. Well, we've got Nicole has a question already. Okay, so what's the question, Nicole? While he's looking at the question, I'm going to just real quick go over the paint we're going to use, and then I'll answer Nicole's question. We're going to start off with white acrylic paint. I'm going to do kind of a long line of that. A couple squirts of phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, cad red medium, yellow oxide, and yellow ochre are almost identical colors, so either one of those, whatever your paint happen to have. Cad yellow medium, dazzling purple, and if you don't have dazzling purple, then you can use ultramarine blue and a regular red, not the cad red, but a regular red, make a purple. And a lot of times your paint tube will say, just say purple. That's okay. If purple, generally, dazzling is the junk that makes purple. Okay, it's DIOAXIZINE, and it's amazing I can even say it right. All right, burnt sienna. And then, of course, we've got our either zinc white or a transparent mixing white. You guys can see this. We're going to want that for later. And what we're going to be painting is this mason jar. And I actually just grabbed a mason jar that I had in the house, and I put one of my brushes in it, and I took a photograph of it. And then I painted it. That's about as simple as I can make it. So this is this little 6x8 canvas. But if you stay at least with 8x10, you should be able to keep up. You're going to want a little piece of chalk or something to draw on. And we're going to start with a little canvas. Now, let's see. What's the question? We have a question. What is it? You said. Okay, you know what? That's a good question. The question that she has is, how do I, everybody says, what do you start with? Okay, like, well, something like this is going to be pretty basic, because if you're going to, in acrylics, you always start with the farthest thing first, and you've got to have an underpainting, which means you've got to have something for your acrylics to bind to. So if you were looking for the color under the color under the color in this painting, for instance, you could pretty much tell it's going to be some sort of dark blue color, all right? Now, maybe only half of it. Now, down here, maybe not. Maybe you have 2 or 3 different spots on a painting that will have an underpainting color. So, for instance, maybe I can give you a better example, say on a painting like this. All right, here's a little painting. And the color under the color on this one is yellow. Can you see the yellow? And the little bits of yellow are coming through. And I did it on the entire thing and just painted the blue over it. All right. So that would be one example. There's an artist in Hawaii, and she just paints everything red and then goes from there. So generally, you need something. That's what I will tell you. You're going to need something under there. And I find that it's nice because it sort of glows through. For instance, sunsets, you pretty much always would start with yellow or orange on the sunset. Probably I would start with yellow. All right, that being said, in this case, we're going to start with the dark blue here, and then we're going to make sort of a medium gray blue for the lower part. So if you're using a 6x8 canvas, I'm going to pop down here about 4.5 inches, and let's see, 4.5, and just make a little mark like that. I think I'll use a different, darker chalk, so the chalk so you can see it, about 4.5, like that. And then you can take, I like to show you guys, little tricks. If you don't own a series of these little clear triangles, they're so marvelous, because what you do is you line up one straight edge on your canvas, and I tell you, I have these in all sizes, and then this edge has to be straight, assuming your canvas is square, Just draw a line across here, and there you've got it. See? There's a straight edge, and that's, you don't have to, you know, fool around with the ruler and measure here and measure here and measure there. Okay? These are wonderful, and you can even paint with them. You can use these as an edge to paint with. The thing is if you do that, then you got to clean them. You can see I wasn't very good at doing that. Sometimes I tell you great things that I myself fall down a little bit in the doing and the executing. All right, so we're going to divide this into two sections. The top part's we're going to start with probably an ultramarine blue. Let me get a little larger brush and a palette knife. Because the reason I'm using a larger brush is I'm basically a little lazy. I don't want to spend a lot of time painting this in. So let's start. We have some ultramarine blue here, and I'm just going to cut off. Do you see how I use this as a knife? Slice down and then lift up and then pull it right here. We're going to start with the dark color. And then I want to add just a tiny bit of cad red medium to it, not very much. And just mix those two together. Now I've got this sort of dark, deep, sort of midnight blue. That's really dark, okay? And I don't think that's going to be enough, so I'm going to grab some more blue. Now I'm looking at it. I like the ratio. Start with the ratio. Make sure you understand how much paint you're using, and then add more to it. Don't make a giant pile of paint in the middle of something and then decide you don't know how to mix the color. Mix like a teaspoon of the color. Get your ratios of one color to another, then kind of mound it all back up. Those of you who live in areas where it snows get the idea of shoving everything back up. If you leave it real flat on your plate, it will dry out very quickly, okay? Or on your glass or palette or whatever you're using to put your paint on. Okay, so now I'm going to say that I've got this. I'm going to put a little piece of paper underneath it like this. It's just something easy. Okay, now let's see. All right, so the major part of this is going to be dark. So I'm not wetting my brush. Now I'm just going to pull this up like this and down and across, down and across. And I want to go all the way out to the edges. This is my underpainting color. The other day I did a painting, and I painted all the trees red and then painted over them, and that was really fun. So there's a lot of different ways to do, you know, when you're talking about an underpainting, but you definitely want something, because what happens is that the molecules that's in the paint are much happier to grab onto other molecules of paint than they are this gesso junk that they put on the canvases. So the idea is you start off with kind of a thin coat of this stuff, you know, some sort of thin layer of paint. And ideally speaking, you know, if you know what you're going to be painting, do it the night before. Just kind of prepare your canvas and go away. And you'll be amazed at how much easier it is to paint on a canvas that's got a little bit of paint on it than one that doesn't. Okay, now, all right, so that's all I did with that. Look how fast that happened. Okay, now, here's the deal. We're going to then take, I want a kind of a lighter gray. Well, coincidentally, if I take a little bit of the white and add it to this color, look at that. Just add it to that color. Now I've got this sort of blue-gray color, and I'll add a titch more of the cad red medium and gray it out just a bit. See that? Scrape and squish. Have you ever been to one of those places, I think they're all over the world, where they take ice cream and you pick out what you want, and then they put it on a piece of marble and they flatten it all out with a spoon like what we're doing, and then they'll put like fruit and stuff in it, and then they mush it all around. This is kind of what you're doing, same idea. All right, so there's my sort of blue-gray color. And I don't think I'll bother to rinse my brush. I'll just scoop some of this up like this and continue painting underneath. And that's how I made a light gray color. It's almost a light blue purple gray. And it's, even though we didn't use any purple in it, we used ultramarine blue, it has almost a purple cast to it. It's a really pretty color. It's almost a stainless steel gray, don't you? Do you see that? Do you feel like that's what you made, almost a stainless steel gray? For instance, if you were going to be painting a pewter pot, for instance, maybe a little still life out of pewter, old metals and stuff. A lot of people think you would use black, but you would mix something like this into the gray tones. And I want to congratulate Victoria. She's on painting with me today. She was artist of the month, and she's getting a prize in the mail. And I will shoot a little video of what we gave her and we'll put it on the website. I'm not going to tell her now because I haven't managed to get to the mailbox to send it to her yet. John says, you haven't sent it to her yet? No, I'm sending it to her. I had to run down to the hospital with my husband yesterday, and he had he's fine. He just had to have some stupid tests that took all afternoon, and days have been kind of crazy. And then John and I just put up a brand new video on YouTube on what our website is all about and what our lessons are all about. It's our welcome video, and I thought some of you might really enjoy seeing it if you weren't sure, if you ever thought about taking some subscription lessons with me. That's the video to watch. When we've given ourselves a title now, the Ginger Cook Academy of Fine Art and Acrylic Painting, because that's really what we're teaching is step-by-step acrylic painting. All right, get this far. What happens to this brush? Okay, so does it go here? No, it goes to the water, right? Everybody remember, this dries like cement. You don't want to leave it out. So that's going in the water, and that's probably happy. Now we're going to just take the hairdryer and dry it. And I'm going to use the back end of another brush to hold this down. Hold my hairdryer very close. I'm going to dry the whole thing. It's going to make some noise. Do we have anybody else I can say hi to, John? Has anybody else joined us while my hairdryer's going? No. Okay, sorry. Here we go. I'm going to just keep going there. You've got to dry this pretty well because we're going to ride all over it. You've got to dry this pretty well. Particularly this top part I want to dry real well. Now here comes the blast of cold air. That's the last thing, it's a blast of cold air. If you hit it with a blast of cold air at the very end, the reason you want to do that is that if it's not dry, you'll tell immediately. Then sometimes the hairdryer will make this feel very wet and sticky still, even when it's dry, but the cold air sort of sets it. Now you'll notice in this video, or rather in this picture, we have it's almost a sort of a blue-gray color. All right, you see that? So now we're going to change colors, and we're going to go into the phthalo, and I will take the palette knife and wipe it off. And we're going to mix some new colors. I think I'll leave this light gray here. I don't mind it. I want to just grab some phthalo and add to this. All right, just add a little phthalo to this. And maybe a tiny bit of cad red medium. And then maybe a tiny bit of yellow oxide, like next to nothing, like 1%. Now I've got this sort of more of a, it's almost a steel blue, steel gray. And that's pretty good. This is what I want right here. Maybe I'll take a tiny bit, like when I say tiny bit, I'm talking about like what would go in the head of a pin or something. A little bit of burnt sienna and put with it and kind of gray it even more. That'll just sort of really give that sort of that antique, farm blue look. Now, here's what we do. We take a dry brush and put some on our canvas like this, and using the side of it, I'm holding it pretty much up here on the handle, and I'm using the side of the brush as opposed to say this part of the flat, making some circles, and I'm coming around here like this, and I'm going to lighten up this background a little bit. See, I want the dark to show underneath. We're making one of these faux finishing backgrounds here. I'm going to lighten it all up. Yeah, the other trick is acrylics dry darker, so you may think you've got it too light, but we will put some dark over that. Now, just sort of side of the brush, you can use the flat. We're making some circles here. It's very similar to how you might get some clouds, something. Go clear to the edge, like that. Now, I want some dark on top of this. This is just the layer, so we don't have quite have it yet. So I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue, and coincidentally, I have none out, so I will put a little bit more in. And I'm going to darken up this gray with just a tiny bit of ultramarine blue here, like that, sort of almost back to what we had before, and come on top of this now and just barely touch it. I want a combination of the dark and the light blues, or the grays, if that makes sense. We're just no two backgrounds have to look exactly the same, but this is kind of what we want for background for still life. And I want to make sure I'm coming all the way down to the base here, just like that. Okay. And if you wanted it a little bit lighter somewhere else, you could come back up here, barely touch it, and say that there was some light area while this is still wet. You can now I'm holding the brush flat, barely touching it, almost dragging it over in small circles to add some extra highlights to the background. And you can then dry this. You could layer this for hours if you wanted to, just really build up some interesting colors. But this is fine for the demonstration today. What we want to say is that it's just not one color. That's one of the tricks when you're doing still lifes. And even though this is a still life in the sense that it's just a picture of a little glass jar and a brush. But I don't care if you're talking about flowers or grapes or whatever. Okay. Now, on this bottom part here, I can just leave that alone. Now I need to paint the bottom of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some white to this mixture and a tiny bit of cad yellow medium, maybe about, say just enough where it starts to turn sort of kind of a light gray, more of a gold gray. Okay. Now, all right, so I've got this mixed. This is one of the tricks. You can mix right on the canvas. So I'm going to ignore all this now and just scoop up some white on the brush. This is the tricky part here. Now I'm just going to come across here like this, right across my gray thing background, and mix on the canvas. That is as easy as I can tell you to do it. I'm just going to mix the color right on the canvas as I'm painting. Okay, because I want this several colors, and then this light gray background will peek through a little bit. And if I want it a little bit darker in here, maybe I'll put a little more gold on my brush. Just grab a little bit of the yellow oxide. Get in the habit. One of the ways you can mix canvas painting colors is either on the canvas or right on your right on the canvas or on your palette. But if you know where everything mixes, now here's a little gold, see? If you know how everything mixes, what colors happen when you put another color in, and that just comes with practice. You don't have to spend a lot of time. I see people spend 10 minutes trying to get the perfect color. Oh, please. Now I've got something like this. This is all right. I've got sort of a two-tone picture here like that. You can see that. So I've got this going here. It's all two-tone. Maybe I'll take a little bit of white now, come up here like this, a little bit of just titanium. Maybe I want to lighten this up in here. I don't want this real thick, but just I've got to have something up here before I start doing my shadows. So there, that's a pretty good base for the bottom of my table. Okay, that's what I would show you. And then what we'll do is we will stop and dry all this. Now we haven't added these shadows right here. All we've done is just created some sort of interesting table color base. Just using yellow oxide added to these other grays that we've made. We haven't really expanded outside this color range very much. And look at all the colors we made. Cool. So let's dry this, and I'll let you catch up. And I will take a minute and just dry mine, and I want you to dry yours. Here goes the cold air. Cold air, yes. Okay, so here's our cold air. Now, I think this is pretty dry. I'm going to let you catch up with what we're doing, and I'm going to tell you some exciting, while you're catching up, drying and doing all this stuff, we'll tell you some exciting things that are going on with the website and what we're going to be doing this week. Come Friday, this is Wednesday, so we're talking about 2 days, okay? We've got a big project going on all over YouTube, and it's involving so many different artists, creative artists, whether they're painters of acrylic or watercolor or oil, or whether they're doing scrapbooking or knitting, or if it's any kind of crafty, arty thing. My daughter Cinnamon, the art Sherpa from Heart Party, invited, oh gosh, we're up to 200 artists, I think more than about 250 now, artists to come participate. And what we've all done is created a painting or art project for starting Friday from the 20th, 21st, the 17th to the 20th. And this is what I created, which is it's pansy garden, and it's done on a just want you to see it. It's an 8x8 canvas with the gallery wrap, and I painted it all the way around the edge. These are nice. You can just hang them right on the wall. You don't have to frame them. And that will be the video. It won't be live. That will go up on YouTube midnight Friday, and the hashtag will have it in the title. There will be a hashtag, and a hashtag is like your tic-tac-toe thing, like that. It says Love Summer Art, and that will be in the title. So this will be Pansy Garden Love Summer Art. And then what I want you guys as viewers to do is check out up in your search deal all the artists that you may have never heard of. YouTube is a giant place. We little artists are like a drop of ink in a giant ocean compared to all the videos that get loaded up on YouTube every day. There may be some artists you've never heard of that you are just fascinated to meet and go see what their projects are. Just save them to a playlist. This is too cool. And I'd love it if you would like and comment on mine and share it with your friends and say, hey, look, we love Ginger's Pansy Garden. Come see it. That kind of thing. That's a good thing to do. So I'm hoping you're all caught up now. John, can you type that in, ask people if they think they're caught up? Maybe they'll see that sooner if they feel caught up. Yes? No? Hello? You still there, John? Hello? All right. All right, we're probably safe to go. All right, we're safe to go, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about this picture that's coming up. This will be in our our lesson library soon. This is a I originally started out and taught everybody how to paint this, and now I'm going to show you how to do it with a palette knife. And I think we'll be doing this live next week. It'll be palette knife painting live next Wednesday. All right, this is what we're going to be doing next Wednesday. So be prepared to do a little bit of painting. Okay, so now let's just start with let's just draw I'm going to show you a real fast trick. Okay, real fast trick. When you want to draw a jar or any kind of vase, draw a box. Okay, draw a box. Okay, then round off the bottom of the box. You can put a little oval here. Then round off the top of the little oval. Okay, and even if your jar lid comes out a little bit bigger, that's basically, a very fast way to do it, to do a vase or a jar or anything like that. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to come over about 1.25 inches from the side here. Put a little mark, and I want to come down from that mark about 1.75 inches, and that's almost to 2 inches, but not quite. I'll put a little dot right there. That's going to be where my vase curves, and let's see if I can't put it in a different. There we go, like that. And the bottom of my vase is about 2.25 inches. Okay. And then I need to come up on the sides from here. Let's switch chalk now. I need to come up from the bottom of this about, before I put the top on it, it's about 3 inches tall. All right. And if you get yours a little bigger, it doesn't matter. The more important thing is to get it kind of squared away. So I'm going to say that I've got a line that's going to come here like this, little line across here, and then straight down this way to here. And let's see, then I want to make sure I've got it rounded underneath here like that with my chalk. Remember, chalk wops, and then curve this line a little bit. Have this line a little bit curved at the top, okay? So make sure you've got this square. Sometimes it's easy to not have it square, and one way you can tell is you can use one of these triangle dealy things and just pull it up on the, just kind of measure it. See, I've got it kind of square. I know the top of my canvas is square, so if I see that this line's square and I can try it at the bottom and see how I did, I can move this over here and see, make sure I had a nice straight line going up and down. I don't need a lot of rulers to do this, okay? So that is my that's the this part of the base. Now I want to come up here, and then I'm going to just curve this in just a little bit on the edge, just like that. I'm going to start another curved line like this, and where our top of our little metal jar comes out, there's a small oval, very small oval, and then it comes out just a little bit on each side of the jar. So it kind of the jar kind of curves in like your shoulders, and then the jar just comes back out. And there's this little oval, and I'll tell you how wide is this. It's about, from the top, it's about 1/2 inch wide, and I think I could make mine a little wider, but you can adjust it as you paint it too, okay? So that's going to be, and then the sides are just sort of like two little curly things here. And this is going to be the top of our jar. I'm just going to erase this line now, so you can see where our jar is curving. Okay, and make sure that this edge comes out, this oval. And remember, an oval is a circle that would fit in a business size envelope. And I'm going to talk to you about ovals. This is where we're going to see some people mess up here. It is not this. It is this. Imagine a rectangle like this that you put a skinny circle in. Okay, it's a skinny circle that maybe like a rubber band where you pulled it, okay, at the edges. Does that make sense? Like you pulled it. Think about that. You've got to get the shape in your mind or you won't be able to draw it. And then we're going to say that right above here is where just above where our table is, we're going to have a water line, and that's got a curve. And here's the top of the water. Now when I filmed this, the water wouldn't film very well, so I colored the water. It's a paintbrush, so the water's a little colored. It's got some blue color in it because it was a paint. Make sense? All right, so we're going to come under here like this, and I'm going to say that this, I'm pretty happy with this now as far as my jar goes. All right, so that's, once I've decided that's okay, now we have to switch brushes. We're going to start using smaller brushes for sure. Let's get some small ones. All right, I've got a few little small ones here. And because you just have to think about this for a little bit. All right, now, what can we do here? Well, the first thing I might do is just take a little bit of yellow oxide, because I'm going to just determine where my lid is. So I'm going to come up here like this and paint the lid in like that. And remember, any extra chalk will wipe off tomorrow, so don't be a slave to your chalk line. Once you start painting this in, be aware of where the chalk is. Now this brush is kind of rounded. It's like a Phillips, and it's very soft. This one is absolutely not going to work. In fact, that one is so old it's going in the trash. That one's being thrown away as we speak. All right, next. Now we're going to try a little stiffer brush. Now there is a, all right, so it's coming around on the sides here, almost like the letter M. I would tell you that there's like it's almost like the two little bumps on the side. I'm going to turn it around this way and do the same thing. And we can take some dark paint and kind of fix them, but and this bottom line has to curve and this top line has to curve. Now, grab a little burnt sienna and come on the inside of this like that and say that that's the inside of your lid. Okay? That's going to be the inside of your lid, and that way you can see kind of if you got the shape right. This is important. Did you get the shape right? And This is all I'm working on right now. It's just that, and it's not perfect yet, but that's where we're starting. Okay. Now from there, we'll have to do other stuff, but we have to build this up as like an underpainting. And let's see, we said that all this was going to be water in here. So I'm going to I've got burnt sienna on my brush. I'm just going to take a little ultramarine blue, cad red medium, make that dark background color. Remember that dark background color we had? And I'm going to come under this brush, under this lid here, and I'm going to darken up the paint, maybe just a little bit of ultramarine blue more, and darken up the paint under here and sort of skinning up my chalk lines so I can see them. All right, I'm just going to say that I know I need that darker there because this is not going to be. All right, now put a little white on your brush because we've already had blue on it. Just take a little bit of titanium white, maybe mix it into that ultramarine blue like that, and let's just come over the whole bottom part of the vase here, underneath where we said the water line was. Remember? So this was the water line, and we're going to paint this vase in like this. We're just going to say that we gotta have to have some blue paint regardless, and then we'll put other colors. But we're just roughing this in. If you make life easy on yourself by just roughing in generally what has to go there, if you've ever packed for a trip, you kind of lay out your clothes, make a list, lay out the socks on the bed, and you lay out, your shoes and the jacket and the shirt you're going to take, and you kind of look at all of it to decide if that's what you're going to take. Well, this is kind of what we're doing here. We're just sort of laying out the colors in some sort of order that makes sense. And for me, I like to just turn things upside down when I'm trying to do like straight lines like this. I make sure that I have a nice curved bottom. It's still got to be flat enough to sit on the table. All right, so I'm just in my ultramarine blue and white, just as long as I have. There we go. So there's my vase, or my jar here. Here's the sides of the jar. So far so good. This is all I've gotten, and I'm going to have to look and make sure that this has got a curve in here. All right, well, we'll play with that in a minute. All right, now what do I know from there? I know that if I take a little bit of phthalo blue and white and add it to this mixture, just that same kind of mixture here, a little bit of phthalo blue. Haven't rinsed anything. I'm just still in my pile of stuff. I'm going to put a little tiny bit of cad yellow medium, or yellow oxide with it. A little bit of yellow oxide. So that makes it's almost a greener blue than this. I'm going to come up here and create this oval that's the top of my water. Okay. Now I may put other colors over this, but I have to have this oval. So far so good. Okay. We have a question? They want to know why this is fatter than the lid oval. It could have been how I photographed the picture. I probably didn't have a printer at the time I could print out the photograph to show you, but I'm sure that that's why it was. Why it was a little bit fatter, okay, where the water line is in the lid oval. And let's see, I'm getting that a little bit too big, so let me just take some dark and push that back. Okay, now in fact, all we see in the lid, like up in here, because the lid's kind of high too, I just see a little tiny bit of blue up in here on the top of this lid like that. You're not seeing much. Okay, now so far my jar still isn't right. Okay, and that's okay. It's still not right, but I can make allowances for it. Okay, so I'm going to just take some of this light blue paint now, and I want to come down here on the side of the jar and just come straight down here and almost widen my jar a little bit on the sides. And I'll put a little bit more white on the brush. Here we go. Too much. Make sure you have a rag in your hand so you can wipe it stuff off. But I just need to widen my jar up a little. And that's all right. If you can make adjustments to this stuff. Everybody always worries, about getting it perfectly. See, I've got this little light edge, and I'll just blend that into whatever I just did. I'm going to widen this jar up here. And I'm going to do it on the other side too. Now that I've kind of looking at the jar, I can decide how I want to have it. And I know that, for instance, that the jar kind of curves in there. I'm just going to widen up the whole thing and then blend it in. Okay, so widen up the whole thing, just blend it all in here like this. Okay, now look, I'm liking this a little better. See how I'm sort of fat. See how the jar is getting a little fatter now? And I never worry about too much of anything. I can take a little dark paint now, skinny up this line. There we go. And then up behind this. Okay, and the same thing here. I'll just skinny this line up here. All right, so my jar is starting to look better. Now, the lid we still have to play with a little bit. And this is where it's going to take, it's a little bit trickier. We're going to just put that brush away and use something, called a, we're going to use a brush like this that can go to a point, the script brush. And I'll wet it now, and I'll pull it to a point. Now I'm going to take a little bit of titanium white, and I want to make sure I have this brush to a point. And I want to just paint along here. Now this brush is no longer going to a point. So that's going in the water. And I'll get out another one that probably isn't because I left it sitting in water for too long and didn't wash it soon enough. But I promise you, if your brushes don't go to a point, you need to work on that. You need to go buy another one. They're about $2 or $3. These are besties from Jerry's. Okay, I'm going to say that the top of this is curving now, a little bit of white. Again, I'm just working on my shape here, working on the shape of my jar, barely touching this, because I know that when it comes down here and it makes this curve, here it's just curving around this little edge here, this little rubber band edge of our oval, remember? The analogy of the rubber band. And it's got a little bit of a light lip here. And then at the bottom, we're still in the titanium. At the bottom, it's got a little bit of a curved lip too. This would have been a good one to do on linen canvas because it wants to catch on this rough canvas. I'm going to come out a little bit further, and then it just on the sides, it just sort of comes in like this. The same thing here. I got a little fat on this side, but I can fix it. All right, so you see how I've sort of just made a few little repairs to this. Then I'll take a little bit of white paint. Still here. We're not going to outline. A lot of people think you outline the whole jar, but you don't. We're not going to outline the whole jar. But we might, where it's dark, I think I have some anyway, but where it's dark, I might come around here on this left-hand side of the bottom and kind of curve this. Okay. Curve that. All right, so that's pretty good. I'm happy with the shape now. And if I wasn't, I would work on that till I was. Does that make sense? I would work on that shape till I was happy with it. And the same thing here. Let's take a little ultramarine blue, same brush, and come down on this left side, particularly where it's our right side, right where it's sitting on against the light table. And I'm going to do a dark edge on there, on here, and bring it under. Just curve it under. We have a question. Yes. All right, the question was asked, when you want to paint something, do you just do I make it up out of the head, or do I use a photo as a reference? Yeah, you need something, sure. You have to have something. My daughter and I used to argue with this when she was in college. She says, well, you should be able to make it up. And then one day she was painting something and she couldn't figure out what was wrong with her person, and she had 2 left feet on them. I'm sorry, Cinnamon, I had to tell that story, but she did. And I said, listen, Renoir, Monet, all those guys, they either looked at something and painted it right in front of them, or they took a photograph of it. We have photographs. They put one of those guys. Let's see, it was I think it was Renoir. Went out. He got that great painting of those guys on a boat. All his friends having what a complicated painting. Huge painting of everybody having lunch on this sort of nifty boat, kind of like an early Miller High Life ad. You know, probably the first one made you want to go on the boat and party with his friends. They looked like they were having more fun than the rest of us. And anyway, he had him out there. He staged him. He took sketches. He took pictures. You absolutely need a reference. Now, there is a great website called, get ready for this because I'm going to give it to you, called paintmyphoto.com. Okay? And in it, wonderful photographers. See where I'm going with the ultramarine blue as I'm talking to you? Wonderful photographers have donated their pictures copyright free, in the sense that you can't publish the photos, but you can paint from them, and then that becomes your picture. Okay, I'm still in the ultramarine blue. I'm doing a little dark line underneath here like this, underneath that white line. I've got a little dark line here. All right, you still with me? I'm going to do a little dark line, still in the ultramarine blue here, a little dark line under this shadow right here like this. And you see I'm still playing with the ultramarine blue talking to you. So yes, you absolutely need a photo reference. And then some clever person was saying, now here's the caveat with photographs. I see artists, and one of their favorite things is to just go grab an old National Geographic and paint that. And I'm going to just suggest you don't do that. Go up to Paint My Photo. It's called pmp-art.com. And John will type in the website address for you. No? He can't. He can't do it. So you got to remember it. We'll put it on our website because it's really a good thing. And you just all I'll say ask is that when you use any of their photos, that you give them credit, and they certainly would be happy to. I'm sure all of us would be happy to give the photographers credit for their photos. All right. So at this point, this is all I want to do with the jar. So we're sort of getting a jar here, sort of looking like water. We haven't done a lot yet, but we still have to put the brush in. This is a good time to dry it. All right. So, all right. Now, while I was thinking about that, she asked about the photographs. We had somebody very cute on my Facebook page take a picture of a straw, and he said, have you noticed that when you paint something and you put it in water, there's a refraction. So the bottom part of whatever's under the water moves over a bit. His straw really moved a lot. Sometimes you don't want truth in advertising. Sometimes as artists, you have to shade the truth a bit. And while that may be totally true, it may not be what you want to create. You could put it off. We put this one off a tiny bit, but not much. Even though in real life, yes, it would be slightly over, because it would be a very disjointed painting. And particularly if you imagine a bunch of flower stems and none of them connected on the bottom to the top, it would seem very odd. And also your eye starts following lines. If you get too screwy with the lines, you really disturb the viewer. All right, so let's dry this and we'll put in our brush, okay? I think I need to do a blast of cold air. Yeah, it was really funny. When Cinnamon was in college, she and I would go round about that until she finally just discovered one day it's right. Of course, mothers are always right, so just sorry. I'm just being fun. But, she came back with a lot of interesting stuff from school, too, that she shared with me. So, knowledge when your children works both ways. I want you to see kind of, if you're trying to decide how to do a straight line here, just grab one of your brushes, okay, like this. Grab a little brush. And don't be afraid to paint over it. You're going, really? Absolutely. So what if we took a little piece of chalk? I thought I had one of my narrow pieces of like pastel chalks, but I guess I'll just do this. Just hold something up like this. Grab a brush, okay, and use that as your straight line down here like this, okay? Down into the water. Just stop about here. I can't outline the whole brush with this fat piece of chalk, but if I use that as my line, then I'll say, here's my little brush. It gets wider as it comes down to the bottom. And then when it gets into here, I'm going to say that then it kind of goes out at an angle like this, comes across, and then straight down. I'd probably move this over a little bit from where I had it before, but it doesn't really matter. Just stick a brush in here somewhere. It gets wider at the bottom. See, almost like a broom. Looks like a little broom to me when you start doing this. And if you want to move this little thing over a bit to indicate water reflection, go ahead. I'm not, I didn't do it, but you could. Okay. Now remember, I talked about artist tape. This is where the artist tape comes in, which is extremely handy. Because when you're trying to do straight lines, should say artist tape on it. Masking tape will pull your, or painter's tape could pull your acrylic paint right off if this weren't really dry. So I'm not a big fan of that. An artist tape is a little gentler than that. And incidentally, a trick you may not know about tape, it ages. What do you mean it ages? It ages like wine. It gets old. And the older it gets, the stickier it gets. And sometimes that's not a good thing if it's too sticky. So what I'm talking about, after about a year, your tape has gotten a little old. So you may see a bargain on tape and decide to buy 2 or 3 rolls at one time. I wouldn't, because it does get older. If it gets too sticky, you can rub it on your pants or something and then put it. But look here, so I'm going to line up this edge right like this. Okay. And then I'm going to take another little piece of tape. And I'm not trying to, I'm always a little bit longer than what I need. And I'm going to come in here like this. All right, so we have a question about something. What, John? Renee says her oval still looks crooked. A rectangle, not a triangle. You want to draw a rectangle first if it's still looking crooked. If your oval, make sure that it's, use your, if her Renee says her oval is still crooked, you can use this triangle here on the edge to make sure, because really an oval is just a circle that fits in a rectangle. All right, that's the trick. An oval is just a circle. This is why I like these live classes so much, even though all this lesson is going to be in the library tomorrow on the gingercooklive.gallery for you guys to look at again. I'm repositioning tape. Do you see this? Just like a cruise ship, I'm repositioning. Now I'm not going to come down any further than here. Does this make sense? I'm just going to see how I'm using the palette knife to cut this off. Just hold my palette knife down here and just going to cut off the tape. This is as far down as I'm coming, and you want to make sure that you don't paint over the ridge of your metal lid here. All right, so I'm going to take some titanium white, and I'm going to start to say, here's the top of my brush, almost up to the top, and I'm going to round it off at the top. I'm going to come down straight through here like this. Never paint under the tape. Always paint over the edge of the tape, because in case you didn't get it squished down good enough, you won't have a straight line. Now I'm going to come under here like this. Remember, we've gotten a little bit wider under the here, like this, and I'm going to stop right about here. Now I'm going to just dry that real quick, and I'll tell you why. We had to do white first, good reasons. Just real quick, dry that real quick. Now rinse the brush. Now we're going to put the yellow on. We wouldn't have wanted to put yellow oxide right on top of this dark. It wouldn't have shown up. We needed a white space. All right, so here's my yellow oxide coming right down on top of my white that I painted. And I'm going to add a little tiny bit of burnt sienna to that, make it a little bit more reddish brown as I go under the water or under the glass jar in here, kind of make it a little bit darker. It's coming right here like this. Okay, and then on one side of this, I will add a little bit of a darker edge. Then wipe your brush off like this, pinch it, and then very flat, blend that in to the brush so that it's lighter on the left. Okay, blend that in, and then you can even take a tiny bit of, say, oh, I don't know, mixing white if you wanted to and lighten up one edge. You want the left edge a little bit lighter than this darker edge. So that's how we're just sort of doing that. And I will work on the top by itself, okay? So now I'm going to just, let's see, put a little bit, tiny bit of gold over the top of this, the yellow oxide color. Oh yeah, here, oh yeah, let's do this too. Let's take some white and make this little band right about here, curve it. You could have done this afterwards. It's so much easier with the paint. There's a little band on the brush. All right, now I'm pulling this off. See this? Pulling off the tape. You always pull tape off and off in the opposite direction you put it. Okay? Now look what an amazingly interesting, perfectly good brush I've got there. Now I will paint the top of this phthalo blue and yellow and white. Make this pretty turquoise green color. It's got to be bright enough to show up here. And I want to leave a little edge here. And I'm just going to use the side of my brush here. Say, here's my, put some white with that. I didn't get that light enough. I'm going to say that this is my top of my brush. My little brush had a little blue top and it was pretty. It shows up here. Then here's a little white band on it, which I lost, but I'll put back. Using just the corner of a small brush. Use just the corner of a small brush. Figure out, do a couple strokes. Do you do that? Do you do a couple strokes just to test it, like barely touch it and see if that's where you want the paint to be before you keep going? Okay. All right, so there's the top of my brush. It's coming in the water like this. Here's the bottom of it. My band is a little weird here, so I'm going to fix that. Come around here like that with some brown. And always wipe the brush off when you're doing stuff like this. There we go. Here's a little band of brown. Now, as I come into this water, remember this is splaying out. This is going out, so I don't really need the tape for that. Just going to take some burnt sienna and just pull it down like this. Now, it goes right into the gold on top of that. You can mix right on your little bit of that gold color, which is your yellow oxide. Okay. Now, this is the tricky part. Dry this. Because I need a light gold band going this way. So I'm going to take some white and yellow oxide. And just on top of this now, I'm going to put my light gold band going this way on the top of this and a little light highlight on the left-hand side of the bottom part of this brush, okay? Left-hand side, bottom part of this brush. Now the bottom of this brush is a little bit of burnt sienna and dazzling purple. And so you come down under here like this and bring it down into the bottom of your glass. Keep it splayed out. Just think of a broom, okay? That would be the best way I could tell you. Think of a little broom. You see, it's slightly off. You know, we've made it slightly off center. And I'm going to pull the little line across here like that where the water's buried the broom, right? Like this little brushy broom thing there, okay? Then a little bit of, now here's where it gets fun. A little tiny bit of cad red medium and yellow and make a bright orange color. This is all still wet, so this works. And then underneath here, using just this little brush, pull in, you leave a little tiny band of dark right underneath that other one, and pull in some reddish brown color. And if you want to put a little paint on your brush, that's fine. Here's the bottom of your glass, and here's the paint. Okay. All right, now we've got, you can see we've got the we've got our brush in the water. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. And I will pull a little bit of, I need a little white band here. The top here, a little white band. And then I want a little highlight, little white highlight right there on top of that. Okay. So, all right, now that looks kind of cool, I think. That's how we did the brush, and I think that that's so fun that you can do a brush like this. And then what happens? Well, rinse your brush because that's all we're doing with that for the time being. Well, no, that's not true. Let's put a little light orange highlight on this side of this metal part here, like that. That might be pretty. Lighten that up a little bit, because I like orange and turquoise, so even if it wasn't there, I'd put it. And then I'm going to rinse the brush. Yeah, you want photos for references, and even when you go up, when we do the master pictures, John is very laboriously put in, like for instance, if we're doing Van Gogh's sunflowers, or one of his pictures, we put a photograph of his picture on our website and let you see what you're actually painting, not just Ginger Cook's version of Van Gogh, but we'll let you see what Van Gogh did too. And I think that that's helpful. What did the person paint? And how did we paint this? Okay, so here's our jar. Okay, now we still have to do some stuff. Let's get a little bit of that transparent mixing light. And I want to say down here at the bottom, just like this, I'm going to do a little bit of light, just a couple light strokes of light, like that, down here at the bottom, where this little brush might be sitting. And I haven't dried this brush. Did you notice that? I just noticed that. That's not good. We got to dry the brush. Can't do anything else if we dry the brush, because I rather like my brush, so we want to dry it. Okay? I like the brush. We got to dry it. Okay, so all right, so it didn't take much now to dry it. Okay, now we're into the transparent mixing white. What is transparent mixing white? Transparent mixing white, for those of you who are new, I'm going to give my paints a quick mist now. And when we say mist, we mean fine water spray, not Windex water spray. Mixing white is a white you can see through. Now, but this is particularly handy for clouds, or when you're doing still lifes with water or vases or anything like that, where you want something to look a little translucent. And one of the things you do is you put paint on the brush and then pinch it off, wipe it off so that you have just a little bit. And I want to come down, I want to say that I've got some white. I'm going to grab a little more white here. I want a little white edge coming in front of this, right in front of my brush here, a little white edge. And I think I want a little bit lighter under here. I'm going to add a little bit light there. And then right up here on this shoulder, I'm going to hold my brush flat, barely touch it, and barely touch it. I'm going to just put a few little light streaks coming down here, and then maybe angling off toward in front of my brush like that. Okay, a few little light streaks. See how this is coming down here, and then maybe under here. Do 1, 2, and stop. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, don't get carried away. Okay, so where else could I put that? Well, I think I could put it, I need a little bit of a highlight for the glass. Wipe off some brush. Come a little bit under the lid and just kind of circling under here like this. Cross the brush right across the front. Remember, the brush is inside, so you got to paint right over it. This is why we had to wait till we finished our brush. So I'm going to say that there's some highlight right there. Okay. Our brush is now, we're submerging the brush. You could take a little of it and just sort of smudge it on the back of here, back behind here, just so this isn't just one color. Just smudge a little bit back here, like that, behind the brush. See right there on the water. This is actually pretty basically funnily simple. The big thing is probably more this metal ring than the water. Now, still in the mixing white, but I've got a little more on here, right? I'm going to come here with a parentheses. You guys know what I'm talking about? Let me just do it with a bigger brush so you can see it. Here's the shape I want. Shape is everything. Shape is, I'll do it in red. I want this shape, like a parentheses shape, okay? Like that, okay? I want this shape. So when I come here with the mixing white, I want to say that I've got, starting right about here, One stroke, and then I'm going to pull down under the water line and stop, okay? And then I'll grab a little more paint and do the same thing right in front of the brush, right over the brush, and pull a few little, just a few little transparent light highlights right like that. And I've stopped there, okay? So now that sort of put, you see how that put the brush back under the water? Kind of did, didn't it? And maybe I've got something right in here like this, up here on the side. And now we haven't done, this is all transparent mixing white. We haven't done any titanium, which we will do, but this is our first. Always start with this first. And I think I want to take, I need a little bit more gold right here on top of my brush. I'm going to add it. I think I want to just add that a little bit, want a little bit brighter. Okay. Now I want to work on my lid. I'm not happy with the lid. So let's take a little tiny bit of burnt sienna and diazonine purple and make sort of a dark brown color. And I want to say that on this side, under this part of the lid, on the right-hand side, it's a little darker. Remember, I've got that little white edge, okay? And then I'm going to say it's a little bit darker down here, and I'm going to straighten this edge out a little bit, okay? Here. And wipe the brush off, and I'm going to say that barely here, there's just maybe a little bit of, let's get some orange. Remember how we made orange? Let's get a little orange and say that there's a little bit of kind of a more of a gold orange color right coming over here like this. Okay. And all I have to do here is I'm not even rinsing the brush. I'm just coming back with some titanium white, and I am relocating the bottom of this jar lid. I'm going to relocate it. I think I'll turn it upside down to do that. Try changing, you know, Renee had a good question, you know, how do you keep all this straight? Try changing the angle of what you're painting. Sometimes it's easier to paint something upside down. For some people it isn't, but for me sometimes if I just turn the picture upside down, I can get a better sense of whether I've got something straight or not. So here's a little titanium white. Now look what I was able to do with that jar lid just by doing that, turning it upside down. And then I'm always pinching the brush, pinching this brush. I want to come up here on the top of here now, the top of the lid, and I want to make sure that I have a white line here. And here's the deal. This is an angle brush, and it's longer on one end than the other. You could be using a pointy brush too. It doesn't matter. But if you're using an angle brush like this, you want to make sure that the longest end is pointing away from you, and then you're pulling it in the direction of the short end. Harder you push, the fatter the line. Okay. And I will just now, to come around this side, the right side of this, I'll just use the corner. In fact, where'd that little pointy brush go? I like that better. Where did I put that? Must have put it in the water. Maybe, if I was clever, I'd put it in the water. It did. Maybe? No? Yes? Well, here's another one. I don't know what I did with that one. That's how my brushes get wrecked. I put them somewhere and can't find them. All right, I'm just going to use this little pointy brush because I can have a little more control. I'm going to bring out my my curve like that. Just I brought it out. You can make these little repairs. I promise you can make these little repairs. Here's the little white highlight on here. Now we're talking about small brushes. Here's some titanium white. A little bit brighter reflection right here. Right over the mixing white. We made it a little bit brighter. Maybe a titanium white now. Maybe a tiny bit of just pure white right there. Just do something and stop, and do something and stop. Okay. So there's our jar. And then let's see. Do I feel this jar is flat? Now this is the deal. I'm looking at this going, did I get this edge straight? Yeah, I did. But if I didn't, well, maybe not perfectly. So maybe a part of me wants to just widen this just a hair, and I can do that. If you've dried it, you can erase it. If you do something like this and you don't like it, I'm just going to come down here with a little white paint and widen this just a hair. There we go. Maybe this is picky, but you know, you got to get a little picky sometimes. Now into the titanium white, I want a little brighter white edge right here on this part of where the water's coming, like that. and stop. Okay? 1, 2, 3, stop. Just look at something and stop. See how it goes. Now, this little brush I'm putting away. I remember, everybody help me remember, I put it in the water. If I ask for you guys where I put it, you can all tell me. Just, all right, now I want a few more shadows in the water, so I'll take a little bit of phthalo blue and maybe a little ultramarine blue and a tiny bit of cad red medium, kind of that dark color that we made, right? Maybe a little tiny bit of mixing white in it so it's not so dark. Let's see. Some sort of dark blue color, okay, like navy blue jeans. And remember, I've got it dark up here. And if I lost it, I have to put that back, okay? Up here, have it kind of dark up here. And I want a dark streak in here like this, just in my glass. 1, 2, stop. Just a little dark streak in the glass. That doesn't hurt a thing, and it's helpful. Now, if I rinse that off my brush, if you've ever spent any time washing a brush, you know that you can rinse it till your heart's content. And if you don't put soap on it, you still have paint on there. Everybody agree with that? So I've rinsed the brush. Now I'm just going to come down here to the bottom and almost like a glaze. And I'm going to just sort of put a little darker blue down here on the bottom with a little water. So at the bottom of this curve here, I've added a little bit. This is kind of an, you know, this is, sometimes the lessons I do on Wednesday are really, really simple, and sometimes they get a little complicated. But I think that's okay. I think you've got to know that it's okay to have it complicated. And I'm just going to make it a little bit darker here on this corner, like that, okay? And maybe next to this, in here, next to this gold, I'll darken this up. Take that little, remember, this is why I always try to use colors in the background that we're using in other stuff, so you can darken stuff up. And let's see, what else do we want to do? We need a shadow under here. And in the photograph, someone says, well, you know, if someone asked me, you know, where'd this come from, there was sort of a shadow. Of course, I had some strange lighting in the house, but there definitely was a shadow under here. If you imagine the bottom of this face is a clock, this is 12 o'clock. Start about 12 o'clock and then come over here to about, well, this will be 6 o'clock. That'll be 12 o'clock. So come over here about 7 o'clock then, 7 to 12, and say that, or 6, say that that's your shadow. Now, how do you make that? Well, you wouldn't use this brush. You'd have to have a bigger brush. Probably go into your water bucket and see what you've been painting with. Okay. Now, remember, these brushes are still dirty. Let's take some cad yellow medium, or rather yellow oxide, okay, and a little tiny bit of cad red medium, okay, and a little tiny bit of mixing white now, and maybe a touch of phthalo blue, and I'm just all on here like this, all right, and more transparent mixing white because I want this. All right, now if you're not sure about the color, test it on something. Before you go jumping all over your canvas saying, what do you think of this? Test it on something, see if you like it. Now that's the color I want for sure, this sort of khaki color, all right, for my shadow. But if I wasn't sure, I would test it on something first. Then I'm going to come under here like this with my bigger brush and just paint on the shadow underneath my jar. And a little bit of it's back here too. A little bit of the shadow's back here too. Okay. Now, what do we know about shadows? What do we know about shadows? Is what we know about shadows, besides the fact that they make something look like it's sitting on a table, is that the edges tend to be lighter. So if I go pure into the mixing white on the brush here, like this, okay, because I kept these in the same tones as this table, right? Now I've got a stripe here. I don't want it. What do? You pinch the brush and then very gently melt that together. So see how it lightens up on the edge. I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to say there's a little mixing white on this side next to my vase here, or my jar. Use the side of the brush and melt those together so that it's all the lines are sort of out of focus. Okay. Then I'm going to take a little more mixing white, and I want a little bit lighter over here around this side of the jar. So then just go back and forth like this, crossing in this, and blend all this out so I don't have any hard lines on my table. Like that. Maybe I'll bring this shadow a little bit darker. A little bit darker under, you want a little bit darker under the vase. I'll put a little, maybe I'll put a little tiny bit of burnt umber with it, or burnt sienna, and darken the shadow just on my brush and blend it. That's the trick. If you know how your colors mix, you don't have to just keep making them on your palette and then sticking them. Okay, so I've got this lovely shadow under here, like this. And I think I still want something lighter on the table, a little more dramatic. Mixing white, not titanium. Look here, mixing white, not titanium. Like this. Because why is that? Because it's going to be softer. You can use your fingers, use the side of your brush, flatten it out. There we go, something like that. Maybe a little bit of the light back behind here like this. Okay, so right behind our vase like this, our jar. Okay, so now I'm going to just get this one out of the way now and focus on this because I'm seeing double now. All right, so now we're only working on this jar, which is very crooked, and I can put it on my screen like this. Now you sort of see what I'm talking about, and I'll just use the side of my brush here to smooth that out. Okay, so there's our, see, look at how interesting the table got just by using that transparent mixing white. Okay, that's all that it took was that. And the final thing we're going to do, that's almost it. We did this in about an hour. Don't you think that's kind of impressive, you guys? We did this in about an hour. Could we have spent a little more time on this? I think we probably did in the other lesson, but that's okay. I feel like this edge here is my chalk edges here, so I'm just going to take a clean brush and erase my chalk because that's confusing. If your chalk is still showing, just kind of erase it and see if that doesn't feel better. All right. And maybe I'll take a little tiny bit of my tiny brush and a little bit of mixing white. Maybe I'll just do a little dash of light right here on this bottom of this brush here. These are the kinds of things you might consider doing. How about our little, how about our gold, remember I had this little outlined edge? So I've got to fix that. Little tiny brush, a little bit of yellow oxide so that I don't have this, I don't want a white edge on the sides of my mason jar metal top here. I don't want a light edge there. And I would say that that's pretty much our picture. I may have put in the video that we have online on the website, I may have added a few more details, but this is generally, you guys, the gist of how you might do something like this. Try to keep with the transparent white whenever you can. If you want to do another little shadow here, maybe you could, like a little highlight, something like that. But you don't want to get too crazy with those. Less is more when you're painting a glass. Less is more. You only need a few. And that was what I would tell you. You only need a few things. And make it a little bit dark. Just make sure it's seated dark. Here's some ultramarine blue. Make sure I've got it dark down here on the bottom of the table. There we go. Weighted the glass. Now, do we have any questions for our group here? John, any questions? No. Well, I'm waiting for John. He's on the phone with me, but he's probably on the phone with somebody else too at the same time. So hopefully he'll come back to us if you have a question. I'm not going to stop this yet. You notice I'm just working a little bit on the inside of the jar lid too. Oh, I wanted to put a little bit of ultramarine blue right here on this right-hand side of the inside of the jar lid to give it a bit of a shadow right here on the inside right there. Just a little tiny bit. Stuff like that makes a difference when you're doing that. And I want to make sure I have it kind of dark. Whoops. One a little bit darker around my top of my brush so you can see it. Okay. And John, I'm going to ask you one more time. What do we got going here? You still here with me? Okay, I think something happened to John. Here. So he's back. It's all right. He gets phone calls from time to time. So we're about done here. Any more questions? Yeah, the question was asked was, when you do the transparent white on a jar, do you wipe it off on a cloth first? Always do that first. If it doesn't work, then you can add a little more paint. But mostly, here I didn't so much, but over here I wiped off the transparent white for these. You bet. I spent a lot of time putting paint on my brush and then wiping it off. Okay, I really do. I spent a lot of time on that, you know, and the reason being is that most people either never put enough paint on or they put too much paint on. How's that? So let me move this wonderful piece of paper out of the way and get this out. And let me show you how nice our picture looks now with our jar. I mean, I think it's kind of cool. Now just imagine you got a nice little jar with a little glass jar, put some flowers in here. We did a brush because it was kind of simple, but you could have done something else. And again, I would say use your cell phone. You could probably have a camera on it. Take a picture of it. Here's a little blue here. Part of me would keep painting on this if I could. Put a little blue over this brush, kind of push it back under the water. Get in the habit of doing that. You know, take a picture of it, see what it looks like. Take several, crop them, edit them. Gosh, we just practically have a photo. We have a photo laboratory in our houses anymore with these wonderful cell phones that we've got, these smartphones. And I mean, they really are smart. They're just, John, you may not know this about John Little, but he's a professional photographer. And if you ever have any photography questions about stuff, you write him, he'll tell you. You're one of our members, he will tell you what the deal is about cameras because he knows all. And he's happy to share it with you. See how I volunteered you, John? Don't you love that? Oh my gosh, they're going to really do this? Love it. Yeah, well, but I mean, sometimes you send us a picture and we don't necessarily always have the best photograph. Okay? All right, so there's our jar. So any more questions? And I'm going to just fold this up in an hour and 15 minutes. I think this was a fun live class. I think I should sign my name. Don't you think so? I'm going to come under here and just sign it. So John's going to tell me when I can end this. He'll say, end it now, and then I will end it. Oh, but I got to tell you one thing. For those of you who are new to doing this, right? If you do not jump off YouTube, this will stay up for a few more hours, and you can finish your picture, okay? Even after I'm gone. But once you leave YouTube, the lesson will be gone. This will only, but we were going to leave this lesson up as a recorded lesson, weren't we? We're leaving this recorded. We're leaving through the weekend till Monday. We're leaving this up till Monday because of our special event of summer art, okay? We're leaving that up through the weekend. And otherwise, we would have taken it down. Normally on Wednesdays, we just take it right down. But we're leaving this up because we can. And we've got that special event coming where we're going to get, I think we're going to get probably hundreds of visitors to our YouTube channel. And perhaps some of them will come and join some of our members over on the Ginger Cook Live site. This is the plan. So if that works, wouldn't that be nice? So that's the end of this, and I'll be quiet now. So we're leaving this up. The question is, can we sell these paintings we do with Ginger? You can. In fact, I would like it if you would. In fact, you know, I had a student one time. This is a great question. Can I sell the paintings? You want to know a trick? Gosh, just you guys. I'm only going to tell you, all right? This is really secret. You know what you should do before you ever start a picture? Oh, no, what? What I want you to do, where's that one I had, right? That's my little test picture. You know what I want you to do before you start a picture? I want you to write on the picture in paint somewhere. Ooh, let me get a better flow. I'll just in paint somewhere here. I'll just use some of my paint. This painting you ready for this, is sold. Now, that needs to go on and then do your underpainting. Now, it has the magic formula to sell. And I just did a blog, which John's going to probably put up this week, on how much to charge for your art if you want to sell it and how you might sell it. You may sign it even. Absolutely. If I put it in a lesson, feel free to sign it. And I still retain the copyright on the original image, but you do it on yours. It's, so feel free to sell it. Absolutely, I would love it if you would. So write that. Do this before you do your underpainting. And the reason I had this one student, good true story, and she was selling like crazy. I said, and honestly, to be kind as can be, and she will remain nameless. This was about 5 years ago, and I will not say who she was. She's a dear friend now. But honestly, her early stuff really was kind of, I'm going, huh. And she was selling it as fast as she could paint it. And that's what she was doing. And, you can always learn new tricks from everybody. And that was the trick. And if you want to sell something, that is a great way to do it. Start with that right on there. This painting is sold before you paint it, if you intend to sell it. And that's my comment for the day. Any other questions before we sign off? All right, good night, you guys. Good afternoon, you guys. Thanks for playing. And just really, our website gets better and better and better. Victoria said so. Just ask her. Thank you, Victoria, for those kind words. She's now the leading edge on authority, and she has declared our website just phenomenal. So there you go. And we think it is. Oh, nice.